morning. Hello? Can you hear me? No. Yes. Okay. Someone there? No? Okay. I think they're competing with us. Good morning. I know competing with a roller coaster is not a good idea, but they gave up, so. Welcome back. And I hope you're having a great conference so far. And welcome to the mobile and IoT track. Before we start, a couple of housekeeping issues. First of all, a big thank you to IBM for sponsoring this track. And for allowing us to be here. I hope you all downloaded the My Connect app. There's some QR codes around, and I think should be one here, probably not. But there are some QR codes around, or just go to the website if you want to download it. Also, I'm not sure if you noticed, but each session on this card has a score beside it, from 1 to 5. I encourage you to mark your sessions with a score. If you leave this on the way out, you can win one of the 25 UB keys from Ubico. They're really good things. I've been using them for the last 3 years, so they're really good. And welcome to my session, first of all. How many of you saw me speaking before? Okay, good. So you don't know my spiel. Well, it's safe to say that my presentations are a bit different, so I hope you enjoy them. So my name is Ardeleanu. Oops, that went a bit too far. Sometimes I blog at that URL. The last one was in April, before that was in October, so I don't blog much, but I intend to blog quite a lot about Swift in the coming days. I work for a company called User. We launched one of our apps yesterday, so that was quite good. It's an app that allows you to create photo books, and you have them printed. It's available in 27 countries as of yesterday. Also, I'm organizing conferences. I organized one in London and one in Romania. The one in Romania we did in November in Cluj. It was really good. We're doing another one this year. We're not sure exactly of the location, but it's going to be November time as well. Also, I'm running training. The next one is going to be next week in Bucharest about Swift. Also, I'm not here to, I told you I'm doing different slides, right? I'm not here to pick sides. So I work in iOS. The examples I'm going to use are from iOS, not from Android. But that's purely because I work in iOS. In fact, with the release of Android M, most likely that my next phone is going to be an Android. Because I want to go into Android, and with the privacy settings changing, that's good. Also, as I said, I don't pick sides. So I need to put one from iOS as well, just to balance, right? So can we do something about the luminosity of that? Can you turn off, because you can't really see what's in there. Can we turn off some of the lights? Right, so let me explain that picture. That's a building, and there's a lightning pole going through 2 balconies. And that's how some people do architecture. So I'm not sure about you, but I'm really pissed off by how bad mobile apps are in general. Granted, they start with good intentions, they have good ideas, but sometime along the way, something goes bad, and we end up with really bad things and inferior products. So why is it that mobile, in particular, is so bad, and we have so many weird apps and thousands of farting apps and so on? Well, it turns out we live in a time of great innovation, and literally we're redefining the future every single day as we move along, and every time we encounter new things and we don't know how to do it. And because of that, every so often we're surprised by how our users use our products. So in this case, a teenager group their apps by the color of their icon. How many of you group icons by the color of their icon? But people do that. It's just the way they are. And we need to encourage all of them to use them in their own ways, but also to make sure that we cover that particular scenario. And the mobile industry is booming. So that's a study from Ofcom, which is the UK regulator for telecommunication, as of 2 weeks ago, in which they said that in 5 years, there are more houses using tablets than there are laptops, which is a huge thing, because it took something like 20 years before that to move from desktop to laptops. So it's accelerating. Also, the number of apps is going through the roof. So there are 1.4 million apps in the iOS App Store. And as of Monday at WWDC, Apple announced that users downloaded 100 billion apps from the App Store. That's huge. And also that, because it's a land of opportunities, that attracts a lot of businesses. And a lot of them have really good intentions, but they try to do things the standard way. So they kick off with offsite meetings and blue sky thinking, and that was kind of the punt between this one. And we end up with things like this. I mean, in this case, it's just incredible. If you look at the screenshot on the left, there's a button that says full website. So that means, by extension, that that's a limited website. And also, we have a cookie policy on the mobile apps, which doesn't really make sense. Not to say that they're downloading stuff from the internet when they have offers, and also when I try to find an ATM next to me, I'm placed somewhere in the North Sea. Not to mention this. I mean, this is so bad it deserves its own slide. This is the Ryanair app. It's bad on so many different levels. And also, the mobile technology is becoming really popular with developers. So that's the TOB index for Objective-C, and it's really, is booming. And the same thing happens for Swift. And with that's a screenshot from the open source release of Swift on Monday, and that's going to be huge. And that particular one was really massive. Developers in the room, 5,000 developers, applauded for 25 minutes. Do you know how developers hate to move their limbs? And 25 seconds, do you know how big that is? Anyway, they also bring really nice, let's say, technologies from other places, and it just doesn't work. So it turns out that building mobile apps, it's a bit of a science. And you can't just go into it and start doing things without understanding what it is. So these are my 5 solutions for the problem. So far I told you about the problem. So the solutions are respect the process, prototype, divide and conquer, testing, and documentation. So let's go through each one of them. Respect the process. Well, it turns out that the hardest thing to do when you build a project is to ask the right questions. And what I mean by that is to actually start from the project idea, and that's what you get from a client, or what you have in your mind if you want to build something. Selling that vision to the team that's going to build it. Eventually shoot it down, because a lot of ideas are bad, or refine it and so on. Communication is critical for the team, and also the proposal. So in the iOS world, we have something called an application definition statement. How many of you are iOS developers, or know iOS, or work in iOS? Oh, wow. How many are Android? How many are neither? Oh, wow. Okay. Good. So you don't know about this. That's good. You're learning something today. So in virus world, we have something called an application definition statement. And this is part of a HIGS, which stands for Human Interface Guidelines, which is a big document provided by Apple that tells you how you go about designing your app and implementing your app. So, sorry, this is not working anymore. This is what an application definition statement is. And watch the keywords. It says concise, main purpose, and audience. So you need to solve those three things. And the way I do things is, this application definition statement is literally just a phrase. And you print it in big bold letters, and you stick it in your office. And that's the thing that it does. It's amazing, because you get around losing purpose and losing what you're actually supposed to build, and not going outside the right track. Let's try again. Okay, seems to work. And a corollary to that is this particular quote from an UX evangelist from Apple. And again, there are three keywords there that you should pay attention to. It's solve real problems elegantly. So those define how the apps should be built, or at least how successful apps are built. So this is how I do. Usually I go from requirements to the final thing. I start with a list of features. I filter them down to the bare minimum. And again, don't try to put everything into an app. So look at what Facebook is doing. They're starting taking things out of the main app. So they have a Messenger app now. Soon they're going to have other apps. Because the user doesn't like to go in and then spend 5 minutes trying to find exactly what they're supposed to do. Mobile apps are supposed to open, 30 seconds, do what you're supposed to do, close it down. And on the watch is even lower than that. And then you define the app features, and you write the application definition statement. And from that, you can go to user journeys, you can go to wireframes, you can go to prototypes, and so on. So let's talk about prototypes. I'm really surprised by how little this technique is used. Most of the developers never do prototypes, let alone business people and so on. So it's a shame you can't see the picture. But there are 4 guys holding looks like a cardboard car in a drive-thru for McDonald's. Obviously, you can go down to the wireframe route and then build a prototype. Either way, at least you start with something. Oh, sorry. So the wireframe works in the same way. You identify the main areas of the app, identify the screens, relationship between them, and you start with the simplest things and build up. So let me show you how I start doing wireframes. I start with a simple sketching. So this is a sketching I do in my training for prototyping, where we build an application called Timers, which is similar to the clock app you have on the iPhone, but it allows you to do other things. So I start with the most important thing, which is a timer, right? So I put a timer on the screen. What's next? Well, I need to be able to edit it and do something with it. And then add timers, remove timers, and so on. And then there's an alert that happens when the timer is done, right? So that will have its own screen. I'm not sure why it's flicking, but and then you just have a relationship between that, and you start building things like that. Let me go to this. Literally just by adding screens one at a time. You can do the order, you add an additional screen that holds the collections, and then you make a screen for the timer as well. So there we have 3 main screens of the app, and then we have an external screen where you get the alert. And then from that you can refine it. So literally the stuff on the right, you can do it with your client, face to face. You can do it either on paper, or you can do it on the iPad. In that case, I've used an application called Paper on the iPad from I can't remember the name of the business. But literally just sketching, do stuff one after the other. If you do it electronically, it's really easy to go backwards and forwards and see the steps that you're doing. And from that, you can refine it and put it in formal documents and do whatever you want to do. Again, start from the most important task and go all the way down to defining all the screens. So For prototyping, we have a whole plethora of tools, and it kind of exploded in the last 2 years. We have a lot of web-based tools, so you'll see things, and actually there are a couple of Romanian competitors in the market as well, really good tools as well. You can go down the visual route, so you can go with Photoshop or Sketch or whatever. The problem with that is the client will get they will start commenting on the colors, on the elements, on how big the font size is, and so on. And it's not about that. It's about what functionality you have in. Also, you can go down the presentation route based, and this is what I like using. So basically, I'm creating a presentation, which is the app, different screens, and I go between the screens like a presentation. You can use Xcode. The new storyboard functionality that we've been using for the last 2 years allows you to do a really easy, quick and dirty way of describing the app. The good thing about that is you can actually start putting things on the screen as they happen. And even better, with Xcode 7 that was announced on Monday, they allow you to put mini storyboards inside your storyboard, so you can have all these different components, and it's very easy to go between them. Next one is divide and conquer. What do I mean by that? Usually you work on big projects. How do you go about structuring those projects? And this is, again, a very important thing. What I tend to use is something called a C4 model. And this is taken from the book of a friend of mine. It's called Software Architecture for Developers. It's available on LeanPub. You can download it and see it. So I'll show you how to use it. Basically, you have 4 levels of a system. You have a software system at the top, you have containers, and inside those you have components, and underneath you have classes or whatever objects. So this is a quick example. You have a software system, and then you have different components, and this can be across the entire business. So it can be APIs, iOS, Android, whatever. And you can go into details, and you can start structuring like that, and you can go really, really into detail. Basically, this divide and conquer is the Matryoshka doll, is the black box functionality. By defining those components, you define the relationship between them, and also you avoid side effects. You control the interdependencies between those, and you improve the testability. And this sounds like buzzwords, but trust me, it works. Again, the software architecture is not about following stuff blindly. It will evolve over time. It'll go into details. That cake says happy birthday on both. Another good tool for this in iOS worlds is Playgrounds. That allows you to build one single component, build all the stuff around it, and then integrate it into the main project. Testing. It's a shame, again, you can't see it. Underneath testing, it says, I find your lack of tests disturbing. I'm not sure why, but I think I know why, actually. But in mobile world, nobody actually tests things. So why don't we test things? Usually it's because tools are really bad, and because we don't have the right tools for the job. And the moment you put stumbles in front of developers to do things, they won't do it. So we need faster tests. 30 seconds seems to be the sweet spot for testing. If a developer spends more than 30 seconds running tests, they lose interest. They start doing something else. They forget about tests. If there is a bug, they'll just ignore it and do something else. So we need to get really fast tests, a bit like what we have in the web world. And obviously, developers are losing focus pretty easily. Again, it doesn't matter what testing methodology you use, either TDD or BDD, as long as it's not TBD, as in to be determined. You need to use testing. End of. So the last one is documentation. Again, it's one of the things that developers don't like, because developers are inherently lazy. As much as you don't like hearing that, they're lazy. And one thing they don't like is write stuff that doesn't really have an impact on the last thing. But trust me, the worst thing you can get as a developer is to spend 5 minutes tracking down that method that you don't know exactly what it does. And then you feel like punching the other developer that actually wrote it without writing the documentation. It happened to me yesterday. So. A lot of people like UML. I don't recommend using UML because it's too structured and too single-minded, if you like. I like using something, a variation of that. So UML was built to have all this nice diagram that no one reads or writes. But as long as you have something, a system that you use, just keep on using that. So those are my 5 solutions. Respect the process, prototype, divide and conquer, testing, and documentation. But as any good developers, I'm always off by one, right? Shame there are not many developers in the room. I think the 6th one, and this is the most important one, is motivation. Why do we do what we're supposed to do? This is probably not the slides you expected to hear in this talk, but I think this is the most important thing in general in development. So we live in a day and age where we're really lucky. I mean, if you lived 20 years ago, and probably some of you did, it's a completely different world. The opportunities you had, I mean, 20 years ago we had a text terminal in the library that was searching the local collection of libraries, books, and that was the only thing. Internet is pretty big. We're quite fortunate, and with that you can be whatever you want to be. You're not restricted in any way by where you are. You're not restricted in any way but by what you were supposed to do. You're definitely not restricted in any way by your background. So you can be on the other side of the planet and do whatever you want to do. And be whatever you want to be. And there is no reason in 2015 not to follow your passion. Absolutely none. Why waste 8 hours or more in an office and hate every single second of it? It doesn't make sense. And let me tell you one thing. There is no such thing as luck. And unfortunately, I can't read the quote, but there is no such thing as luck. There are opportunities and missed opportunities. And suddenly, we all have families, we all have mortgages to pay, we all have bills to pay. But, you know, everyone finds excuses. And let me tell you one thing. Your excuse is invalid. It doesn't apply. As long as you're capable of doing something, from 10 o'clock at night until 3 o'clock in the morning, there is enough time to do enough damage, to do something, to build something for yourself. There is no need to stay in a job and you hate every single second of it. So you need to find your why. Why are you doing what you're supposed to do? Why do you want to build a farting app? Why do you want to build an app that does something that is meaningless? One example of your why can be change one's life, and that means changing one single person. It doesn't have to be 1,000, it doesn't have to be 10, just one. And it's not about charity, it's far from it. It's actually about helping people. And this is a video of a product that Google bought from, it was a startup. And I think it encompasses everything that a developer should do and should be in this day and age. And not necessarily a developer, just a technologist in general. So let me play it for you. Sorry, can I connect the sound? I think it's this one. I got it. So basically, it's a product for Parkinson's patients. And you know, when you have Parkinson's, the one thing you find really, really hard is to eat. And
technology senses how a hand is shaking and makes instant adjustments to stay balanced. In clinical trials, the liftware spoons reduce shaking of the spoon bowl by an average of 76%. We want to help people in their daily lives today and hopefully increase understanding of disease in the long run, Google spokesperson Catalin Jabari said. Other adaptive devices.
So that's a person with Parkinson's trying to eat. Literally, they can't put food to their mouth. And, you know, it's one basic things of life is being able to eat.
Devices have been developed to help people with tremors, rocker knives, weighted utensils, pen grips, etc.
And what that tool does is literally just,
we want to help.
By having a motor that counterbalances your tremors, you're able to eat. So holding that spoon, you can actually take food to your mouth, and that's powerful. So that's So those are the 6 solutions to the problem, and I think that encompasses kind of everything what you're supposed to do without, going into code. Thank you very much. That's my Twitter handle, that's my blog. Thank you very much for attending this session. And I have 1 minute and 15 seconds if anyone wants to ask a question.
Hello.
Hi.
I have one question. How do you convince your colleagues into more prototyping and sketching and things like that? Because developers tend to jump into production immediately as they hear an idea. Thank you.
Yeah. Usually prototyping and all the other stuff is good timing. Prototyping and the other stuff is done more by the businessy people and managers. For developers, for example, one thing we tend to do is we use a pull request mechanism to do your code changes. So you submit a pull request using Git. You submit a pull request for code changes. We tend not to merge that unless you have documentation for that particular code. So you tie in with something that they're supposed to do, and you're not accepting their change unless they put documentation. And they're kind of forced to do it. It's like any other thing in life. You need to find, it's either the carrot or the stick, one or the other. So yeah, you need to force it. It'll eventually become a habit, and it'll happen. Thank you very much.